In a past episode, we've covered in great detail the huge events of the Roswell UFO crash incident of 1947, and probably mentioned it in more than a dozen others. We've even discussed the possibilities of human technology advancing from things we learned from this crash. What if I were to tell you there was much more to these theories? An unbelievable adventure that took place over 13 years of life for 14 military men and women. Prepare yourself for a wild ride that may have led from the Roswell UFO crash directly to our comfortable modern life. This is the story of Project Serpo.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Deceptive Reality Podcast. My name is Nick, and with me is the eulogistic.
I can't help myself.
What's it mean?
Every single time I edit our podcast, I go, I'm not going to laugh after he says whatever the word is, but I can't help myself because I'm like, I don't know what that means.
Well, this one's eulogistic.
Yeah. Still don't. Eulogistic.
Yep. That means you are praising and affirmative.
I am affirmative.
Like earlier, before we started recording, you were helping me with my camera choices and you were affirming my suspicions and also affirming the proper choices I should be looking for.
I sit there and I thought to myself, now listen, everyone out there in podcast land, no matter where you're listening to us, I said, you know what? Nick's like, yeah, I'm looking to buy all this stuff. I'm like, oh, this is exciting. And then I remembered, wait a second, of the two of us, I'm kind of like the residential expert.
Yeah.
Nick's never came to me once for this. He's like my dad. My dad's like, yeah, I bought a car.
You already changed at least one of the items I was going to buy. So, I mean, I don't take advice like that lightly. So
that's big.
That should be very eulogistic for you.
That is big. You know, for when it comes to cinematography and stuff like that, I own so much stuff, but I bought a lot of the lower end things also thinking I would save a buck here or there. And then I've through trial and error, there's only a few things that I've bought the first time through. And then I've bought different ones after it. I'm like, no, my first choice was the best by far. There's only a few. Microphones, let me tell you, those MTR 101s made by Samson's, which is, you guys can't see it. I'm pointing to something y'all can't see. By far the best microphone, but for podcasts, this one's technically the best in my price point. Okay, listen. We're still on a cheap man's budget over here.
Yeah, we're self-funded here.
We're self-funded. Listen, but by far the best microphone. Like if you're looking to sing or you're looking for like superior sound effects and stuff like that, that's the way to go. That was the first microphone I ever bought when I started doing anything. So my first YouTube channel was recorded with that microphone. If you go back to 2017 and see what microphone I was using, it was the MTR 101. And after that, I'm like, man, all these gamers got these cool mics, and I bought them all. And I'm like, these things suck.
Yeah, a lot of them don't choose good mics. They choose a lot of popular mics.
Yes, and that's what I learned. It's like, they're the one that they've got is more popular, but it doesn't sound anywhere even close.
Well, look how many Yetis are out there.
That is true. That is true.
You want to know the best advice anyone ever gave me, especially when it comes to this topic?
What's that?
He said to me, if you want something, buy what you want. Don't buy something close and think it's good enough.
That's
because
good
in
advice.
the end, you'll have bought the thing that was close, and then you'll end up buying the thing you wanted anyway. So you're spending double the money.
That is probably great advice. I would agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've saved a ton of cash since I started taking that advice. You know me, I'm stubborn. It took me years, but once I learned that,
this is our word guy.
A ton of cash
every week, folks.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, be afraid.
Yeah, film is so difficult. Streaming is difficult. Content creation is very difficult because there's so many different things. You got lights, you've got sound, you've got systems like mixers when you get into the big stuff. It's crazy just lighting choices. Like, do you have a barn door lighting system? Do you use just panel lights? Like, are you just using ambient light in your room? Like, there's so many different choices, but it's crazy. I watched this video this weekend. It was Austin Evans. Have you ever watched that guy?
I might have. I don't remember their names, unfortunately.
Super cool guy. He has this YouTube channel. He's pretty big, but he does this thing called Poor Man Builds. And what he does is he has one person do like the blown out, and then he tries to, on the cheapest possible budget, see how close he can get. And I'm always amazed with what he does. But one of them was, he said he's going to do a streaming content creation setup. So the guy that did it went out and he did like $4,000 worth of lights and cameras, and Austin Evans had,
which don't take long, mind you.
Yeah. Austin Evans did it for $100. Wow. He bought it.
That's wild. It just goes to show, if you know enough, you can do anything.
And which, was his as good as the other guys? No. But for an entry level for $100, he bought 2 ring lights. He bought it was like a $22 4K webcam that shot, I think, 30 frames per second.
Right.
And then the other thing that he bought was like a cheap mic that was on sale for like 60 or like $40 or something on sale, but it was like $100.
Yeah.
And I'm like, for an entry level, streaming content is perfect. Best advice I can ever give, ever. If you're doing content creation or you're doing streaming, concentrate on sound first. A lot of video
advice.
A lot of video can be forgiven. Sound cannot. You could have the most crystal clear image, but if your sound is off, I don't listen to it.
Right.
I can't do it.
Plus, if you're streaming, your webcam image is only going to be a postage stamp on a full screen anyway. You don't need much to do that.
Correct. But it's surprising. Like, I've seen amazing videos where I've clicked on them like, oh, this is going to be so good, and the audio's off and I can't watch it. And I've talked to other people and they're like, yeah, if the audio sucks, I don't watch it. And I'm like, it just goes to show how important audio is. Like, if you had to put a percentage, I would say 60% of it is based on audio and the other 40% is lighting and camera.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
I agree to that. But me personally, I can't watch. Like, I don't watch a lot of streamers, this, but I can't watch a stream if they've not got some kind of video.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Because otherwise I'm just watching
video
game play itself.
Yeah.
Right. I want to play a game. I don't want to watch a game necessarily.
There's very few faceless gaming channels because that's a very, like, your personality has to be on a different level.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I don't think I've seen that for a faceless channel. I'm sure it happens.
H2O Delirious is probably the closest high end. Yeah. But anyway.
And he's always faceless.
He's never shown his face. He's never shown his face ever.
Oh. Well, all this talk of technology isn't completely off topic.
Is that right?
Yeah, we've wondered before, and we've talked about it in episodes, about how we made these technological leaps.
Yes.
And we've theorized about it. And we've had episodes that talked about where it might have come from. Well, I'm riffing off you a little bit, and I branched off a couple of your episodes.
Oh.
And I don't know if you'll know this or not, but it's something that goes into explaining how that happened.
How the technology came to be?
How we made these advancements so rapidly.
Okay.
Because you'll remember before we had talked about different alien episodes and recovered crafts and stuff like that.
Yep. We just talked about it with Roswell.
Right. So I'm actually, to give it away a little bit, I'm riffing off your Roswell.
Oh, baby. Oh, man, that's always exciting.
Yeah. You want to hear a little bit about that?
Of course I do.
In July 1947, near Roswell, New Mexico, the infamous Roswell incident occurred when an unidentified flying object crashed on a ranch. Initially reported as a flying disc, the incident sparked speculation and conspiracy theories about extraterrestrial life. We've covered this in great detail on a previous episode. Allegedly, the military recovered debris from the crash site, fueling beliefs of a government cover-up. According to some accounts, an alien survivor was captured amidst the wreckage, marking a pivotal moment in UFO lore. What happened to this survivor? Some lore claims that it died not long after, but what if this chance encounter led to something a bit more? Project Serpo is a captivating and controversial conspiracy theory that alleges a secret exchange program between the United States government and an extraterrestrial civilization from the Zeta Reticuli star system. The story first gained public attention in 2005 when an anonymous source, claiming to be a former high-ranking official within the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, began posting detailed accounts of the program on an online UFO discussion forum. These kind of claims happen every day. However, this was different in that certain previously unknown events were eventually verified. This individual, known only as Anonymous, described a series of clandestine operations initiated after the infamous Roswell incident of 1947. According to the testimony, the U.S. government established communication with the help of the surviving aliens from the crash, leading to a unique exchange program. From the deep depths of endless space, aliens, known as the Evans, provided coordinates to their home planet and proposed an exchange of knowledge and personnel.
Have you ever heard anything about this particular project?
No. But what I find amazing is, where did Bob Lazar say all these aliens came from?
And I'm going to apologize for the narration. Zeta Reticuli, not Reticuli.
Yeah, I knew what it meant.
Yep. So we're going to talk, this is going to bounce off Bob Lazar again in the next segment. So this is all kind of exciting. But I want to talk about how often people make these wild claims. Like, you must see it 10,000 times a week. People coming out saying, I can't tell you who I am, but I was a secret insider and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Like, this happens all the time.
All the time.
Do you know how we typically will separate wild claims from wild claims that actually have some grain of truth in it?
How?
It usually goes when they make the wild claims, someone keeps track of it and is able to verify previously unknown parts later.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Do you remember Top Secret Magic with Stanton T. Friedman?
No.
I don't know if I've told you this before, but one of the largest documents from the US government that was ever leaked was something called Top Secret Magic, Majestic 12. You ever heard of that?
Majestic 12, I have, yes.
Yeah. So this was dropped off on Stanton Friedman's doorstep, like literally someone abandoning a baby. They knocked on his door, ran away, and left this huge, huge book on his doorstep. He read it like it was redacted, like it was completely unredacted. And he tried to put this out and people laughed him off stages.
Doesn't surprise me. I feel like a lot of that is.
Yeah. Yeah. And that went on for years and years. But then later on, when he thought everyone forgot about it, he made a request for the Freedom of Information Act to the government for certain parts of this book that he got. And when he got it back, it was heavily redacted, but it matched up perfectly with the unredacted copy he had.
Oh, wow. You know, something that's funny, because even you and I, whenever we talk about stuff for our podcast, typically the one thing that we always look at is what's the similarity, right? I always say, where's the bouncing ball going, right? The ball bounced over here. Well, it bounced over there too. Oh, it bounced over there also. When we talk about this star system, in which we've not done a podcast on this yet, but we've talked about this a lot.
Maybe we should.
Betty and Barney, when they did their, what's that called? The
hypnosis or hypnotherapy?
It's got like a specific name they use for that. But
regression therapy, was it? Or
yes, regression therapy. Yep. When she did that, she spoke of this star system. It did not have a name yet. It was later then determined to be this system. And it's a 2-starred system. There's two different stars in that system is what makes it so interesting. And then Bob Lazar,
keeps coming up.
It keeps coming up. And you have to question, where does this come from? Right?
Right.
Why does this system keep having some type of hold? And whenever we're talking about UFOs, but the thing is, nowadays it'd be so much easier to go, yeah, there's this system, blah, 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 because we have the internet.
Right.
But when we look back 50 years, and that's part of the problem nowadays, when people talk about a lot of this stuff, you got to kind of go, all right, like how much did they Google search to figure this out? Or how much AI wrote this versus 50 years ago, you didn't have that technology. So that's why nowadays I feel like it would hold a lot, because nowadays, if someone was like, man, I've got the best footage of a UFO you've ever seen, no one would believe it, because they'd be like, yeah, you made that with CGI.
Yeah, like you and I could make that easily, I'm sure.
Correct. And it would fool a lot of people.
Seeing is not believing.
Not anymore. Not anymore. Not even hearing. Like nothing that...
Right.
Like, what was it they said in the old days? Believe half of what you hear or something like, believe half of what you see and none of what you hear.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Nowadays, you can't believe anything you hear or see. You just can't.
Right.
You know,
just don't believe anything, or like some people believe everything.
Correct. Yeah. The one thing that I've been fascinated by here lately, which kind of sticks to our plot a little bit, is these videos of those octopus UFOs. Have you seen those?
No, I haven't. What's that about?
Man. They look like octopuses in the sky. I don't know how to explain it.
There's a new video that is sending shockwaves throughout the UFO community. I don't know if you've seen this yet on your feeds or online. This footage was reportedly taken at a U.S. Joint Operations base in Iraq, showing what appears to be this jellyfish flying through the air. You see it highlighted here with these dangly legs. To be clear, News Nation has not independently verified this footage, but Xavier Walton joins us live. Xavier, what more can you tell us?
But everyone goes, it's just a balloon. I'm like, I don't know, man. It kind of looks like an octopus UFO to me.
Yeah, I've not seen a lot of balloons that look like octopus, to be honest. Maybe the head part.
There's a video that came out that it almost looked like it was using cloning, like cloaked. But it looks like an octopus, like you see little tentacles coming off of it.
Right.
And I'm like,
was it like partially see-through and stuff like that?
Yes. But some people say it's CGI, and I go, I don't know, man.
Well, you know, even with people saying that, I still want to see these videos.
Yeah, me too.
Because I think you can get hints from it sometimes. Like, there's no CGI videos that are perfect.
No.
Like, you can always kind of tell, right?
Correct. You can. Well, it's like that video
Especially
I showed you.
Trained eye.
That I enhanced. Where that family goes into the backyard, and then you see that cloaked UFO in the backyard over top of the fence.
Calmungarela, me cancela el bar eso. Kylo, Cherro, que chute. Kylo, Cherro. Kylo. Uy, chetar.
So I think Joe referred back to that video when he's talking about what those demons kind of look like, right? Which if you've not seen that episode, you're going to want to go back and watch that episode. It should be for you guys the episode before this one. But, you know, it's interesting that, you know, of course, whenever I hear this stuff, the first thing I think is like Predator, because, you know, in the Predator,
if everyone does
boop, boop, and then all of a sudden it's right to the camouflage.
Yeah.
You know? But I mean, that's kind of what it's like. It's almost like they're like 90% transparent.
You know, we can do that.
Yeah, for sure. We can.
Like we can make those shields that make us invisible and that kind of stuff. So
correct.
Clearly extraterrestrials could.
The difference is we're bending the light and it's still infused.
Right.
So it looks like a doll version of it. But I mean, think about it. We couldn't have done any of that 5 years ago. 20 years from now, what's that going to be like?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So if you've got an advanced civilization that has created these things, who knows? That's the sky's the limit.
Yeah, who are we to even guess at that?
Correct. But I will tell you, I do get amazed whenever I hear these stories, and the first thing I hear is that star system in particular, because I'm like, man, what is it about this star system? That's just crazy to me.
Yeah, I don't think people are just copying each other. There's got to be a reason.
Well, like Betty, when you look at Betty Hill, she didn't have a name for the system. She just described the system. It wasn't until...
that's right. I remember that.
Yeah, it wasn't until like 15, 20 years later, they discovered the system, and the way she explained how the planets was going around and the two stars in that system, they go, this has to be what she's talking about. We had no clue this system existed when she gave this testimonial.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when this story originally took place, most people wouldn't have known that either. Now, this story came out in 2005, which is still 20 years ago almost.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you remember the state of the internet then, it wasn't super easy to find everything like this.
No, it was super hard. Super hard for all that stuff back then. I mean, when you think early 2000s, think about it. Y2K, we turned everything off because we scared it. When we turned it back on, it wasn't going to work. It's going to blow up. You know?
Yeah.
There's a story.
We should have known better than that.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Listen, people can sell me on a book of goods that doesn't take a whole lot if my knowledge is not there. But, you know, there's a story that I tell all the time. Everyone knows I'm in the world of automotive, and I'll never this will give you an idea of the year 2000 versus today. Someone came to a car dealership I was working at, and they was like, we have this genius product. It's going to be revolutionary. Everyone's going to be doing this. Let's get you guys the first one to do it. And I said, what is it? And he said, we're going to take a picture of every single car on your lot, and we're going to put on a website. And I laughed at the guy, and I said, you cannot sell a car on the internet. People want to sit in it. They want to smell it. They want to drive it. They want to test drive. They want to see if it fits their family. Nowadays, 27% of cars sold in the US is sight unseen on the internet.
Well, I don't know if you can imagine this, but during the pandemic, most houses here were selling sight unseen to people moving.
Correct.
Without seeing what they were buying.
I mean, think about how crazy that is. But in 2000, that would have been the craziest thing you could ever try. Like, I laughed at the guy. I said, you'll never sell a car online. That'll never happen. But now when I look at new innovative things, I go, remember old Bert, what happened to young Bert when he said, if we would have jumped on that in the early 2000s, sky could have been the limit. We would have been a pioneer in that industry. Instead, old Bert kept us in the rock wheel age with like the Flintstones.
The Flintstones era.
Just out there pedaling with our feet.
We have these commercials called Canadian Heritage Moments.
Oh, Canadian Heritage.
And there was one where a guy named Joe Shuster come up with a superhero who could fly. He wore a blue and red uniform. He patrolled Metropolis.
Oh.
You might know this guy.
Superman?
Yeah. And in the commercial, there was this guy that was like, he can fly. No one will ever buy that. No one's going to like this guy.
That's what it is.
You know,
man.
people can be wrong.
They can be wrong. Occasionally, it will happen. You know, it's amazing, though. When we look at advancements in technology, you know, obviously that's what this podcast is about. You let the cat out of the bag on that one. But, you know, when we talk about the internet and how hard it was to find things, I mean, 2000, like I was using to buy things cheap enough in 2000, I was going to eBay. Like eBay was like the Amazon of the early 2000s. You know, let that sink in, everybody.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, that's insane.
I bought off eBay back then a great big heavy metal night vision monocular from Russia.
Wow.
And it worked good. Now, of course, in the current climate, if I did that, I'd be in jail.
Of course.
In like a few weeks, but
100%.
That came right from the Russian military to me through eBay.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Back then, that's wild. Today, that's wild. But
Today,
before that,
sure.
Unheard of.
It was the Wild West.
Unheard of.
Out of curiosity, and I want to hear from everyone out there in podcast land too, because this really, for those of you that's my age, and we're talking early 2000s or before, what was the first item you ever bought on eBay? What was that item for you, Nick?
I'm
Very first item.
It was that.
That was your very first item on eBay?
Yeah, I couldn't imagine that I could possibly buy something. No, that's my first item online, period.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, because I want you to keep in mind my part of the country. When I heard about high-speed internet the first time, I told the person they were crazy. Internet doesn't come through through like TV cable or anything like that. Right. I was like, I think you're confused.
Yeah, that's not happening. That's not happening in Canadian land.
Yeah.
My first...
No, other parts of Canada had it, just not us.
Yeah, for sure. You know, my very first item that I bought also online, which happened to be eBay, was a inkjet printer.
Oh,
and
that's kind of boring.
Well, my second item was a camera that attached to my cell phone because cell phones did not have cameras.
No, that's interesting.
And that was like a 1.3 megapixel camera. And I'm like, I made it, boys. I was like, who else taking pictures? But it was like a little small camera. Like you would take all these pictures at 1.3 megapixels. And then there was a cord that came out of the end of it. It was attached to the camera, but it was like inside of it. And then you would plug it into the camera or into the cell phone. And then you could you couldn't download it onto your phone, but you could send that image to people. And of course, they was looking at probably the most grisly looking thing you could, like, I'm sure it looked nothing like
15 pixels across.
Why'd you send me a picture of a stove for? That's my car. Oh,
yeah.
You know, but yeah,
even that huge technological leap for all of us. And what they're describing in this is just like in your episode, they recover the spacecraft, but just this one proposes that we didn't just figure it out by looking at this and tinkering with it. We had a surviving alien from that craft.
Yep.
Who I'm sure was scared as heck.
Heck yeah.
Helped us get in contact with his home. And they proposed an exchange of technology with us. And that's how we figured out a lot of this stuff.
That's interesting. I've not dug into that part of it. I know the Roswell and obviously the advancement of things after, but I couldn't tell you anything about the alien. The alien or anything that happened.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I found it interesting, because we have touched on this a lot, that we got advancements after this, but there was always that piece missing of like, how did we necessarily figure that out? Because you've said in a lot of them that you put in massive technological investment, people are not going to figure it out.
Oh, yeah.
Like if it's too far in advance, they're just going to know it's not working and they don't know why.
Correct.
Well, this sort of bridges the gap.
But then it makes me think let's use Elon Musk as probably a great example, which I didn't understand. He's as polarizing as what he is. People love him or hate him. Like it's 50-50. There's no gray area.
I've kind of gone back and forth on it, to be honest myself.
I'm shocked. He intrigues me, I guess. But like that man,
oh yeah,
the way his mind thinks, it makes me sit there, or like a Tesla. It makes me sit there and wonder, was there maybe just people that were on such a different mental capability, or even like autistic savants,
right?
That they're able to use a significant amount of their brain to figure out very complex things. But then I sit there and I go to myself, like, what's the odds? Like, what's the odds of a Michael Jordan in technology to come around once every 10 years? And then you look at technology, how much has advanced in the last 20 years. Like we're talking about, we went from those monocone record players, the thing where you put the needle down and we had the cone that came out the end. That was in the early 1900s. Like the gramophones. Yeah, like the gramophones. Yep. Those was like early 1900s. When did the first TV come out? 19 what? Now I'm curious.
Oh, I don't know.
I mean,
but we used to sit with inventions for a long time.
I just find odd, though.
Yeah. Like when we used to make an invention, we sat with it for a long time before we moved on to the next stage. Now it's like creation, short use, improvement. Creation, short use, improvement.
The first television.
Rapid fire like that.
First electronic television successfully demonstrated in San Francisco, September 7th of 1927.
That's a long time.
But if you think about it, we went from those gramophones to TV. Color TVs didn't come around till what, the 50s, 60s?
Yeah. Or maybe even later.
Maybe even later.
I think.
Yeah, because I know in Canada, things came in significantly later than what they did in the US for a while.
Last year.
Yeah. They've got color TV now. They can watch The Wizard of Oz. They can see the second part now.
That's right.
They're like, wait, not everything was grayscale? What? That's crazy.
I know. I was shocked too.
But they go from that to computers in the early 80s. It was more available to people in the 90s.
Yeah.
2000s, it bumps along. We was using carbureted cars through the 70s and 80s and went to fuel injection.
Yeah.
But then you just watch everything explode from probably 2005 to now, 20 years of advancement. Like, think about how small they can make a microchip, and like, that's what ticks me off. And, I take heat for this every single time, even from people that I love and cherish. You're telling me that the first space shuttle didn't have the technology of our cell phone.
Right.
But that got someone to the moon.
That's what they say.
That's the hardest sell for me. That's the hardest sell for me. It's so far away.
Have you seen the application that the lady had to write to control it?
No.
So those computers worked a little differently. They worked on punch cards.
Yeah, I knew that much.
That had to be in a specific order. And she had literally millions of them in boxes. And she was so brilliant to be able to do that. And that's how it was controlled back then. If you can even imagine that, that's hard for me to imagine.
But think about how precise everything had to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yep.
we're talking to and not to say that there's not smart enough people that could figure it out. But my problem is, it takes Elon Musk, probably, in my opinion, one of the smartest minds that exists in today's world. Love him or hate him, the guy is a genius.
Yeah. You know what my theory on him is?
What?
That he's great with technology and substandard with people.
Oh yeah, I would
And
agree.
that's why people love or hate him.
I would agree.
If you look at him as a scientific mind, I think you'd be impressed. But if you expect him to be a good person or a nice person, you might be disappointed.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's what everyone's problem is. You know, when they dislike him, they dislike things that he's done. Like a prime example, and I didn't even think of this. I think it was Jess that brought it up to me because I was talking about Elon Musk one day because, you know, I'm a nerd.
Right.
But we're talking.
You really like him too. You're a big fan.
It's because I don't care what he does to people. I look at how smart the guy is. But we was talking, she goes, yeah, but you know, you was all about that Johnny Depp and Amber Heard thing. And look, he was over there cheating with Amber Heard. And I'm like, I don't care who the guy's sleeping with. I just want to see him build a rocket to go somewhere. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And I'm on board with you about that.
Yeah, it's
like, I'm totally on board with that. I don't care what he's doing in his free time.
I don't care. Like all the people that goes, oh, you should hate this president because of X, Y, and Z. Listen, I don't care what happens. Everyone has something that they probably hide in a closet. And if you say you don't, you're lying about it. But, you know, in the same regard, though, like if you look at, like, I'm only going to tiptoe into this just a little bit. We try to cancel everything that happened in our past, but we didn't know any better. Anyone that's over the age of 35, you can probably cancel them at some point in time in their life by today's standards. But if you look at the human being from the time period of whatever it is, that's what I look at. And with Elon Musk, that's what I'm talking about. When we look at technology as far as rockets and stuff, this is probably bona fide one of the smartest people that we have on this planet currently. And then you look at it from the standpoint of this man needs to create 8 refilling modules to get to the moon with a rocket that lands itself, for God's sakes.
Right.
We're not exploding it up in the air or dropping it in the ocean. It's like a snake and landing on a platform in the middle of the ocean. This guy needs 8 of those refilling stations to get to the moon. Then you have NASA that slingshots this space shuttle up there. And you're telling me it didn't need any of that? And then you're telling me they're punching this punch card like they used to in the old days when you worked and you're checking in for the day, you're clocking in. They're using those systems, but then it lands on the moon successfully. The more I think about it, and the more I look at the technology we have today, I go, I don't know about this. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, never fool me again.
I don't know. I don't know about that. I'll tell you why. Because I can tell you from the industry that I work in, that people in the past, while they didn't have the technology we have today, most of them were way more capable.
Sure, I agree 100%.
People are today.
I agree 100%.
So imagine, look at it this way. If they had what we had today, where would they have landed?
Here's what I would counter that with. In the industry that you're in, Nick, after doing all of those amazing things, did any of them one day and age just go, we lost the blueprints to everything?
Probably a bad example in the industry that I'm in, because people do lose their security keys. They do lose their application. their software all the time.
I guess so. But like with NASA,
I will concede something to you though.
Sure.
They should have been able to figure it out again in the meantime.
That's what blows my mind. Like NASA, they go back and they're like, all right, well, we'll go to the moon eventually. I just find it odd. We go to the moon one time and we go, yeah, we'll go back eventually. And then we never do.
Yeah.
But then we talk about doing it. And NASA's like, oh, we lost the blueprints. I don't know. We just can't find them. Well, what about the video footage? Oh, well, we lost all that too. In fact, we recorded over some of it by mistake. Who does that? Who does that? That makes no sense.
America's Funniest Home Videos now.
That's what I'm saying. Like, how crazy is that though? Like that's what I'm saying. When you chalk up the fact that Elon Musk, the smartest man by today's standards, needs 8 refilling stations, and he needs the best technology to get us there. But NASA, with nobody, in my opinion, as bright as Elon Musk, using technology that was worse than what's on our cell phones, and then they lose the blueprints to how they do everything, and they lost all the original footage that was shot. I don't know, man. It's like, have you ever watched the show Catfished?
No, I know. Oh, wait. Yes, I have.
Okay. There used to be the show, for anyone that doesn't know, and it still might be around, I don't know, called MTV's. It was called Catfished.
Right.
I just got back from vacation. That's why we're not looking at my forehead. Okay. I just got back from vacation, but my entire vacation, I watched the show Catfished. I think I watched 3 seasons while I was on vacation. But anyway, I find it amazing that these people go online and they have these fake names or these fake pictures and they catfish people. That's what it's called. It means they pretend to be someone else using someone else's image. For people that might not know what that is, mom and dad. So they use someone else's image and they go, mine. It'd be like someone using my picture and putting it on a random site, but instead of being Bert, their name might be Jimmy.
Right.
But they steal all my images from like Facebook or Instagram or wherever. But you know, eventually Neve, or I think that's his name, Nev, whatever his name is. Kev, I don't know. Whatever your name is, I'm sorry. Eventually, he's listening to these people's stories and he goes, come on, you don't believe that, right? They can never turn on their webcam. They can't ever talk on the phone. They can only text. Oh, they said they live here, but it doesn't quite check out. That's what NASA's like to me. It's like, oh, okay, you could do that without having technology that's real good. Oh, okay, you could do that without refilling 8 times. Oh, okay, yeah. You don't have any of the original blueprints at all, like not even to a nut or bolt that went on, the bottom rocket propelling system. Oh, you don't have any more of the original footage. That was all lost somewhere. Oh, that astronaut, you don't want him talking to the public and swearing on Bibles and stuff like that. Okay. Like eventually you have to go, come on, man. Like there's something up with that. There's something.
So on the record, you don't think we've been to the moon then?
I will be honest. I go back and forth. If 10-year-old me, 10 years ago, someone said, I've been like, dude, you're stupid. It'd be the equivalent of someone telling me there's a flat earth today. Okay. I'd be like, bro, seriously. But now the more I look at it, the more I go, I don't know that we've ever been there as a human. I'm not saying that a rocket hasn't gotten there and that we don't have a rover on there, but I'm saying I don't know that a human has ever stepped foot on the moon.
Here's my take on this.
Yep.
I think I believe firmly that we have.
Okay.
However, I don't believe it's when we said we did. because we had, excuse me, we absolutely had to win the space race.
For sure.
That's all there was to it. And
For
when
sure.
I say we, I mean you guys. Was Canada wasn't even doing anything.
But
really.
it counts. You're U.S. junior.
Right. Yeah, I know. I hate to say it, but we are.
Yeah.
But it was at that time, Cold War times, and before that, we had to win the space race. There's a whole TV series about what happened if we didn't,
Oh, I didn't know that.
called For All Mankind.
Oh, I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's just the same history we had, except we lost the space race to the Russians,
Oh, wow.
and it caused all kinds of problems. But I think it's excuse me, it's possible that we faked the original part, but we went later. And the reason they don't want to release or have lost things about it, because we can never have it known that we would have lost. That's my conspiracy theory that I have come up with.
So it's a half truth.
A delayed truth. Because what would happen in the modern world if definitive proof came out that we cheated in the space race and it would have been Russia first?
I think everyone knows that we did cheat. Why did Russia never attempt to do it after?
I think they did, didn't they?
Low Earth orbit. That's all anyone's ever been.
Weird.
Even us.
I don't know.
We've not been anywhere other than low Earth orbit.
Maybe they never bothered once they lost, because they just wanted to be first. That's my theory anyway.
But that's what I'm
But
saying.
you know who didn't have trouble getting into space?
Who?
The people in this story. You want to find out how?
Yeah, I do. Is this going to be
All right,
like a
let's
Mac
roll
and me
that part.
moment?
A little bit, yeah. A little bit.
In 1965, 12 American military personnel, 10 men and 2 women, were reportedly selected for the mission to Serpo. These individuals were trained extensively in various scientific and technical disciplines and were provided with advanced technology to aid in their journey and survival on the alien planet. How would they get there? Zeta Reticuli is 39.17 light years away. With our own current spacecraft, even today, that journey would take us several thousand years. The Ebbins knew that the crashed craft from Roswell was beyond repair, but somehow also knew that we were in possession of several other crashed alien craft. This is something that Bob Lazar might also have hinted at. With their knowledge and direction, a craft was made ready. The journey to Serpo supposedly took 9 months, traveling aboard an Ebbins spacecraft equipped with technology far beyond human capabilities. The travelers experienced numerous anomalies during their voyage, including temporal distortions, passing through possible extra-dimensional spaces, and advanced propulsion systems that defied known physics. Upon safe arrival, the doors opened seemingly of their own accord. The Ebbins had been suspiciously vague about what would greet them when they reached their destination. Slowly and cautiously they exited the craft, unsure they could even survive. To their great relief, the Americans were welcomed by the Ebbins and integrated into their society, marking the beginning of an unprecedented cultural and scientific exchange.
So Bob Lazar did talk about, if I recall from your awesome episode, a number of craft that were in various stages of working order.
Correct.
So here's something a little interesting. The Ebbins knew that the craft that crashed in Roswell, that was beyond repair. Like, I think in most tellings of the story, there's just debris everywhere. They're not going to tape that back together. But even today, what percentage of people do you think know Bob Lazar's story and know that we have X amount of partially working UFO spaceships?
Probably 20%.
You think it's that high?
The only reason I say
I didn't
that,
know until I heard Bob Lazar's story.
the only reason, well, that's what I'm saying. They know about Bob Lazar's story, but I think it's because of like podcasts like Rogan that had Bob Lazar on and they covered it.
Yeah,
like
that's a good point.
It's not necessarily the person; it's the people that they have platforms that provide that story out there. So, do they know it heavily? Probably not. But have they at least heard the story of Bob Lazar? Maybe 20%. And I feel like that's probably high, but
yeah, it's probably generous. But I think, you know, as soon as you mentioned Joe Rogan, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's probably right. Maybe it is even higher.
He has he's
got reach.
He's got a huge reach when it comes to podcasts.
Yeah. So back when they got in contact with this extraterrestrial race, they were like, which remember, they're 9 months away, but they're like, yeah, that ship, you're not going to be able to repair that. But what about this 5 others that you've got? Like, how did they know that?
Yeah, that's weird. How would they know that? Were they gifts?
Right. Like something that we don't even know today, living on this planet. They're like, yeah, you've got 4 with this broken thing. You've got 1 with this. Don't worry, that propulsion that you need, we can tell you how to get that. It's an element you don't know about.
See, that's what gets wild because there's technology that I think we can adapt, but again, and you and I have talked about this before, depending on where you live will determine what elements you have to even produce. Right. The technology.
So this is part of the first part of the exchange. That like, we're going to tell you how to get this working.
Right.
You know, and you just got to hop on board this ship with our guy that you captured. Because a lot of the stories said that they thought he died after, and maybe he did. But he, according to this story, put them in touch. So I think he probably would have made it.
Oh, I'm sure. Because
yeah, 2 months and it's
2 of them died.
Yeah. Right. And I think in the story that you told, like, this one was really upset about it, but he had been captured. They didn't know in that story what exactly happened to him, but the father in your story felt really bad for him.
Correct.
Yeah. So he might be happy to know that he probably got to go home. But there's certain parts of this that I take as menacing that maybe aren't really. But like, if you've got a top secret and these aliens are like, yeah, what about those 5 other ships you've got at this facility that no one's supposed to look at? Like, that would make me as a military guy be like, oh, I'm a little concerned about this now.
For sure.
But anyway, they got them to help them fix up a ship, refuel it. And they said that they went through different time distortions. They went through extra dimensional spaces, which we've brought up on the Montauk Project. We've brought it up on the Roswell. We've brought it up on Bob Lazar. We've brought it up on so many different episodes. This is one of those things that are common that you were talking about.
Correct. Yeah. Because they've been able to figure out how to adapt like a wormhole, or like they talk about space and time folding onto itself.
Right.
So,
which is the only way.
Oh yeah, because like in the best way I can probably explain it for all the visual people out there, it's like if you're looking at a paper towel, if you have to go the entire length of this paper towel, that's a long path. But if you fold it, and instead of it being a 2D plane, if you're trying to go through it, now you have a very small width, which is also why they say when they see UFOs, it almost looks like it blinks across the sky or like a skipping stone. It's doing that because it's going extra dimensionally through planes. So it's basically folding itself, or not itself, but it's folding the plane of the dimension that it's working on, and then it's skipping across that plane is what it's doing.
You know, you're going to think I'm real stupid, but you've explained that once before, and I only got it this time.
Is the visual, man, the paper towel visual.
Yeah. Like I've seen that before.
Yeah.
But where they blink in and out of existence when they're in our airspace.
Yeah.
That I wasn't putting that together, but that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Yes. Like a skipping stone. They say it's like a skipping stone, which also, before we get too far ahead, I looked up that Joe Rogan, Bob Lazar episode.
Right.
60 million views just on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a decent percentage of people probably.
You figure
and that's just YouTube.
That's just YouTube. You figure maybe a couple million on Spotify. And then every other platform, and then all the short videos that has been created. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 2 or 3.
I hear this is how the Ebens get their information.
It could be the doggone Joe Rogan podcast, man.
Yeah. No, that's yeah, I can't believe I just got that now. So that now it's making me think, and this is weird because I went to a paranormal evangelical presentation. I mean, sounds weird that I'd go to one of these things, but a guy who was explaining UFOs in a church, and he kind of said the UFO doesn't really move hardly at all.
Right.
It's superheated and it cuts through, like it moves the things around it. It doesn't move itself.
Yeah.
Like maybe it lifts off, because we hear stories about them lifting off and there's some kind of propulsion. But maybe it's just folding space-time like you just described.
Correct. Yeah, for sure. I don't disagree with that.
Yes. And that,
I think is definitely possible. Again, we're basing everything on what we know, which is not a whole lot. I mean, when you look at physics as a whole,
right,
we've changed our position on physics so many different times. And the only thing that we don't really adapt is time. We can quantify almost everything with the exception of time. But if you have a UFO, or not a UFO, but a ancient civilization that's been around millions of years, who's to say that they've not quantified time?
Right. There's always more to discover.
And when you take into account
a very small amount of time.
For sure. And then you equivalate, let's use, for example, dimensions. Like we talk about dimensions all the time. What if we did the same thing with dimensions? There's so much that we don't know, or we're just now starting to figure out. That's why we keep trying to create black holes in CERN. We're trying to do that just so we can understand some type of element of what's happening with that. Like we don't have a concept of any of those things.
Yeah, we're just trying to understand the nature of our universe. Like we don't always have like lofty goals with our experiments, but we just want to know a little bit more each time.
Right. But and
they could have been doing that for, like you said, millions of years.
Oh yeah. I mean, this could all be kids play. We're like, when you look at the potential of what people says our day and age is,
right,
we're at the stage where we're crawling right now. And we think our technology is so advanced. Dude, we haven't figured anything out. We're still using fossil fuels to get around. We're just now looking at EV.
I know, right?
Yeah. And, we're looking at EV.
If we didn't just so happen to have dinosaurs, we wouldn't even be able to do this.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the thing. When you look at our ancient civilizations, people go, well, there was dinosaurs and then there was people. And, this even goes back to, we don't even know when dinosaurs. We have a theory that it was the Younger Dryas that they left, but then someone's timeline is off, because there are pyramids that shows triceratopses carved into.
And don't forget,
structures.
We've covered this, so go back and watch those episodes.
Go back and watch it. When you have dinosaurs in some of these hieroglyphics and some of these carvings and some of these drawings, one of the timelines is off. There was either dinosaurs after the Younger Dryas, or there was humans that was around, however many tens of thousands of years ago, something's off.
Right. And we can't even definitively prove that human civilization hasn't, or not even human, but earthly civilizations haven't come and gone 3 or 4 times. We can't even prove that it hasn't.
Well, if you look at Bob Lazar, Bob Lazar said one of the UFOs was found by doing an architectural dig.
Right. And that episode we had on lost civilizations, like, that's hard to explain. And another thing too, and this is going to come up in the next segment, and we've talked about it before, the more advanced a civilization, the less of a trace it leaves.
Yeah, for sure. I want to hear that part. Nick.
Yeah, so let's hear that part.
Serpo, as described by the returning team members, was a harsh and unforgiving environment. The planet had 2 suns, leading to extreme temperatures and a barren landscape. Despite these challenges, the Ebens had developed advanced technology and a thriving society. The Americans spent 13 years on Serpo, studying the alien culture, social structures, and technological advancements. They documented their findings meticulously, noting the Ebens' peaceful nature and their surprising lack of a structured government or military. Despite the radical advancement of their technology, most Ebens lived what we would consider the homesteading life. Simple lives, devoting more time to intellectual endeavors than the pursuit of material goods. The Ebens lived communally and relied on telepathic communication, which fascinated the human visitors. A particularly intriguing reveal is the claim that the Ebens had a unique understanding of life and death, viewing existence as a continuous cycle rather than a linear progression.
There's a lot of stuff in that little narrative.
There is.
To mull over.
Correct.
I think I'm going to bring attention to 2 things, and then I want to hear your thoughts on it. But number 1, speaking of my friends and stuff who are, they're trained in technology, they work the technological lifestyle. You know what one of the main goals that they all seem to share?
What?
Is they want to go into a little community, grow vegetables, and live without all this stuff. That's like a wide goal for a lot of technology professionals. And that's what most of the Ebens are doing. I found that very interesting. Like, they're not, I don't know if you remember the Greeks and the Romans, or I think it was more the Greeks, where it was 80% leisure, 20% work.
Correct.
That's sort of what the Ebens have done. They've got massive technological advances, but most people are trying to enjoy their lives. They're growing their own food. They're living almost in communes and that kind of thing. And I think that kind of matches our advancement, how things are going. We're getting more advanced, but people want simpler things in their day-to-day life sometimes.
I could see that.
So that I found interesting.
That is interesting. Because when you think about it, right? Like when I listened to that, I had multiple thoughts. So I had to write some of them down because I'm like, I'm going to forget some of these. It's funny.
I like that.
It's because when like sitting down here, and it's funny because there's always what I call a mixed matched bag of stuff on my desk all the time because I've always got something going on.
Right.
One of the things that I've got, when we talk about technology and how we've discovered certain technologies, I put things in different platforms or different thought processes. So like Velcro, right? Like I got a box of Velcro. Some people's like, why do you got Velcro? When you're getting cables and stuff down?
Velcro for anything.
Velcro. There's 2 things that I think everyone should have in their bag of goodies. One is Velcro.
Yeah.
And one is tape. Always have.
I thought you were going to say Velcro and a knife to cut Velcro.
That too. Always have that. But do you know how Velcro was discovered?
I know there's some kind of crazy story behind it, but I don't remember what it is.
A man was walking through the woods and he got
Mhm.
burrs on his socks.
Oh, okay.
And it
That
annoyed
makes
him.
sense.
He got home and he's like, why are these burrs sticking to all my clothes, especially my socks?
Right.
And he took it under a microscope and he saw that the briars had little curves in there.
Mm.
There's little small microscopic curls. And he said, I think I could create that. That's why one side has the plastic with the curled
Yeah.
edge and the other one is like a fabric you would find on a sock. Since then, we have Velcro. I look at that
Do you
and I
know
go,
his name?
do what now?
Do you know his name off the top of your head?
I can't remember his name.
Because I want to make a tribute to that guy. Because I love
Velcro's
that
great.
product.
Correct. Velcro's handy. But you know, I sit there and I think to myself, this was someone that had a problem. He looked at it and he goes, why is this happening? And then he invented something. And I think that's definitely feasible.
Right.
But we're talking
it
about,
happens.
yeah, I mean, but we're talking about two materials, relatively common, and curiosity. But when I look at things like
Right.
microchips, no one's
Yeah.
walking through the forest and a microchip sticking to a circuit board. Like that's not happening.
Right. Because he observed something that was already happening
Correct.
and then found a way to use it.
Correct.
This is something that just doesn't happen, or it does
Naturally.
happen and you found it on a crashed ship.
100% my point. The second thing,
Right.
like we was talking about simplistic, sometimes being more simplistic and then that resulting in the creation of
Right.
more technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
You and I, before we jumped on podcast, we was talking about vacation a little bit.
Right.
And I said, I'm so bogged down with creating our podcast that I never have time to
Right.
think. So the adaptation rate on how things happen is very minute, which is probably a good thing.
Right.
But it's like through the course of 4 or 5 months, I might think, man, that's a great idea. I'd really like to try to implement that or
Right.
see what that might do for us. But when I was on vacation, I thought of like 5 different things. I'm like, there's this and this and this. It's because you have time to
Right.
sit and think.
Yes.
The way that our civilizations, for the most part, works is you're always doing something, so you don't have time
Right.
to invent something else per se.
That's one of my greatest things I dislike about the modern world.
Yes.
You're always doing, you're never creating.
Right.
You're just doing.
Correct. And there's no chance of innovation when that's what you're doing.
Right.
But here,
Only like 1% of the population can invade.
correct, 100%. But now you have a civilization like what we're talking about.
Right.
They have a very simplistic life, but that opens up
Mhm.
opportunity to have these thoughts to
That's right.
potentially get them to the next level versus us. You know, I always said that the most endearing thing about me for anyone that knows me is I will slam my head into the wall until that wall breaks, but I will make it through the wall.
Right.
Versus
Hmm.
if I had time to stop and think, I would just walk around the wall.
Right.
That is the US 100%. We're trying to thrust ourselves through that wall versus stopping sometimes
Right.
and then thinking of how to walk around it.
Well, this life that we're talking about for the Ebens is the exact opposite of how we live.
Correct.
20, like we rest and think 20% of the time maximum. And we hit that wall 80%. They're the opposite. They work the 20% to get things done, and then they create 80% of their time. Now, we've had it on this earth where that happens. And that's the Greek times where we got math,
Right.
all of math, the language of the universe.
Correct. But
Like,
then again, you
why
also,
wouldn't we want that?
but you know, we talk about UFOs and the civilizations and the technologies and this how things comes to be. Then how do you
Yeah.
explain things like Nostradamus or Nostradamus?
Nostradamus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about that, man. He came up with some of the
Mhm.
craziest things. Leonardo came up with some of the craziest things. It makes me wonder if we've not had contacts with UFOs, but on a mental scale.
Could very well be. Maybe because one thing those guys had in common is they had the time to think and create.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe that opens you up to this communication.
Correct. That's what I'm curious about. You know, it's little things like that where I sit back and I go, there has to be something to it. Like, you could be the smartest person in the whole world, but the other thing that I thought about in that little section right there is they believe in a circular life. It's not just, well, you die and you're gone. You know, it really makes you think. Like, we've talked about that a lot too on this podcast.
We're almost obsessed with that.
We're almost obsessed with it. Yeah, it's a very curious thing, you know, but they have that same opinion. Now, why is that?
Right.
I don't know. But it's an interesting thought process.
Maybe they've been around long enough that they've proven that.
Could very well be. You know, we're still trying to do it, right? That's why we look at paranormal the way that we do. You know, what happens when you die? What's the next thing that happens?
I'll tell you, if you come across a civilization that most of the civilization isn't examining the paranormal, you'll have found a civilization that knows what happens after death.
For sure. Absolutely.
That's my opinion on that.
And we've had that talk even with Dorothy Eady. We've had that talk with, you know, how many times have there been an episode where, like, we even talked about demons and how they've lived through all these different years of Earth, and they've been a part of different ones. In fact, there are stories of demons that they was around during the time of, you know, the early ADs, you know, when they're talking about events that happened or their capability of being able to open up our minds. And then you even had Joe, the episode that we just did before this one. He talked about how, you know, he believed that demons are able to open up pathways into the minds, much like what we was just talking about with UFOs and like Leonardo or Nostradamus, or, you know, there's just, I don't know. It makes you wonder.
That could explain the circular nature of life. Like, we could enter our childhood bodies through this pathway, and maybe we leave it the same way that a demon does when they're leaving, and maybe we re-enter later, maybe on this world, maybe on another. Like, who knows?
Well, and we always talk about with certain products that you can ingest or other methods, how sometimes that opens up doorways. Yeah. But, you know, that can sometimes open up doorways to see things that you don't necessarily know should be a thing until you do that. And you're like, oh, it also opens up, you know, thought processes for like music and art.
Yeah.
Or,
well, I think if you were, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine. Go ahead.
I was just thinking, like, I just had a runaway thought that's like, if I absolutely knew with 100% of my being that I didn't have to worry about the small amount of time that I have, like, if I knew that afterwards there was going to be something else or I'll get to do it all over again, I wouldn't be killing myself at a workplace for X amount of dollars per day. Like, I'd be painting pictures. I'd be doing science experiments. I'd be writing books, you know. This is the stuff I'd be doing if I didn't have to worry about the finite time that I have.
Absolutely. But I think that's part of the system that we're a part of. They don't want us to think like that.
No, of course not.
You know, we're a number. You know, we talk about employers all the time.
Yeah.
You know, one of the conversations I had with Jess, you know, when we talk about different employers and where you work, everyone goes, oh, it's all about the pay and it's all about this. And I think that's a huge part of it. But I think another part is when you feel like you're not a number.
Right.
You know, when you feel like you actually have some type of an impact for the creation of something, it means more than, well, if I die next week, they're just going to fill my spot and keep moving without me, and there would be no thought process, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You're literally a cog of the machine.
You're an expendable piece of equipment that they can easily replace.
Yeah. Yep.
But
I remember being at a previous job and I was like, they told us about how we were doing these things to improve, that we had to do these things to improve productivity. And all I could think in my head was like, yeah, I understand that, but I'm a person.
Right.
Like, you're just making my life worse and worse to accomplish this goal that doesn't mean anything to me.
Correct.
You know?
You know, it's like, I always had this thought process when I started out working. I'm going to work as hard as I can in my early years so I can achieve and be at this massive level when I'm older. And what I've discovered is now, since I am older, well, heck, I didn't really achieve anything even remotely close because, and I even tell Jess this now, the moment that you open the door that you can do something and you're willing to do it for free, then it's not,
they'll never pay you for it.
Correct. It's never going to be something where they go, man, we really appreciate that, but we'll never ask you to do it again. It's going to become a day when they go, hey, remember when you did X, Y, and Z? Can you do that again? Now it becomes the exception, not the rule.
Yeah, that's right. So for any younger people, yes, work, but work isn't your life.
100%.
You work for yourself, not a company.
If I could go back and change things now, knowing what I know now, I wouldn't have worked those 80-hour days for like 10 years of my life. Like, there's literally 10 years of my life. Yeah, I mean, at least 8 years of my life that was between 65 and 80 hours a week.
Yeah, there ain't no Ebbins doing that.
There's not. You literally you're on a repeated cycle. In fact, the reason that I left an industry was I started having heart palpitations, waking up in the middle of the night, freaking out, you know, and I was making myself physically sick. For a few more dollars. Yeah. For a few extra bucks here and there. And now, even though I don't necessarily make money the same, I found I'm not super far off, but my work-life balance is significantly different. It's not even worth it.
It sucks that you have to get out to our age before we figure that out.
Right.
Because like, I'm in the same way. My job, I actually like it.
Yep.
I don't work extra hard. Maybe once or twice a year I do extra time or something like that. I'm making as much money as I've ever made, and I have time to do stuff like we're doing right now.
Right. That's the key, kids.
You know?
If any of you younger folks is listening, don't kill yourself. In the same regard, the thing that ticks me off is the employees that when the employer asks them if they will do something to help out and they go, well, that's not my job description. That one ticks me off. Don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, don't do that either.
Don't do that.
Yeah, and don't be a snitch.
Don't be a snitch. Because it gets stitches.
Yeah, snitches get stitches.
That's right.
But yeah, so all these things that we had to get old to learn, Bert, the Ebbins, this is their way of life. They know this. They're wise. And they're doing the Greek system and they're coming up with it, miraculous technology. But there's a problem. My conspiracy mind came out in this segment again. They all can speak telepathically, so they can hide whatever they want from the visiting humans. And they're like, yeah, we don't have a government and we don't have a military, so, you know, man, just don't look into that.
Just don't look at. They sound like NASA now.
Yeah.
Well, we lost the blueprint. Oh, we lost the footage.
Yeah. Well,
Don't look into it.
That's a big world that they're on.
Yeah.
Like, if no one told me about anything, I wouldn't know what's going on in China right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, maybe it's my limited understanding where we're not at a good stage in our own world, but not having any kind of government or any kind of military seems weird.
That's true. That seems very odd.
Now, maybe they don't need the military, but I feel like they'd need some kind of government.
I guess it depends. Why does people nowadays need police or need military?
Right.
It's because someone's trying to get something from somebody else that they can't achieve because they're killing themselves to get there. What if you have everything?
Do you think
that you
even
need?
in that nice of a society, there isn't some outlier people?
Well, you go to a good neighborhood, is there crime?
Probably in some amounts, right?
From the people that doesn't have that. They're going into the neighborhood to rob and steal.
I suppose that's true.
And in those poor neighborhoods, crime is rampant. But in the good neighborhoods, if you had a way of keeping the struggles out, the only people you're going to have is the outliers. So the people that have issues mentally.
Yeah. Yeah. But that would probably still exist. Or maybe like, those affairs that turn into crimes. But maybe that's just a human problem.
But again, that's a human thing, right? It all comes down to think about it. We're still very animalistic in all of our thoughts and our processes and how we do things. And, even you look at young me versus old me. I'm way less aggressive today than I was 20 years ago. Whereas
that's a good point.
Young Bert would, if you said the wrong thing, potentially say things and do things that older Bert might look back on and go, well, maybe that wasn't the right thing to do.
Yeah, maybe I didn't have to do that.
Maybe I didn't need to do that. Okay. I think that the same could be said of civilization.
I'm thinking I'm paranoid.
You think you're
I'm
paranoid,
Bert?
I mean,
yeah. So you've listened to a lot of this. Have you ever, has a thought ever crossed your mind? They're up to something. Or is that just me?
Well, what is it that we say all the time about UFOs?
They're not owls.
Well, we don't know that to be true, Nick.
Okay, that's true.
We say that we imprint ourselves onto UFOs based on what we
judge
would do.
them by our standards.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think that's based on the person too. Like Jess is a prime example of this. When Jess and I first got together, she's like, it's like 10 o'clock at night. She's like, well, I'm going to go to the store for a little while. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? She's like, yeah, just going to go over to the Walmart. I'm like, someone will bash your brains in with a brick at 10 o'clock at night. Are you serious right now? Like, what are you thinking?
Oh my God. How dangerous is it there?
Oh man. The area she was trying to go to for the Walmart. Yeah. You'd lose a kidney in the parking lot. Yeah.
What? Are you kidding with me?
No, like there's some spots, man.
How close is this to your home?
Oh, we live in a significantly different area than when we did when we first started out, Nick. It's not the same. Money's a little different now versus when we were younger.
Okay. I was a little concerned because there's nowhere in this town that I could go that someone's going to bash my brains out with a brick.
Oh, that could happen here. Even nice neighborhoods, that could happen here.
Oh my God. You guys got to put your bricks in your buildings and leave them be.
Last Christmas, there was 2 women that was robbed within 20 minutes of my house with a brick.
Really?
Yeah. There was a guy that was walking around telling them they bashed their heads in with a brick. One woman was attacked with a brick.
It kind of, I mean, that's not funny at all, but it's kind of funny. The last time I went to Halifax, there's this kind of well-known deranged street person there. And I'm not judging street people. This guy was deranged.
Yeah.
He's always threatening people. And he comes up to me, and I'm in a group of like probably 8 of my friends. And he's like, "You give me a smoke or else I'll kill you or whatever." And I was just like, "Dude, look around you. There's so many people with you. I mean, you're going to die."
Yeah.
And he was just like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like,
Oh,
if
yeah.
I was there on my own, maybe he would have done something.
The thing is crime in the U.S., I can only speak on the U.S. Crimes are typically a opportune moment of time.
Right.
So most break-ins are not premeditated. It's someone happens to be driving by and seeing you leave and knowing that the neighborhood you live in may not be as secured. And then that's how they
Is this
break
common?
in. What's that, robbery?
Yeah. Has your house ever been robbed?
Oh, I've been robbed. Not my house, but my car's been robbed numerous times.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that kind of thing happens here. Probably a lot in cities.
My neighbor, or the person that lives across from me, it was not even a year ago. He called me. He was gone. He goes, "Hey, I need you to go over to my house. My daughter's there alone, and someone has broken in. She's locked herself into the basement." So I then went over, and it's one of those things where it can happen, but again, it was an opportune time. It was never premeditated.
Did you catch the guy?
No. Now, coincidentally, there was some theories that went around that potentially when I went upstairs, maybe he was downstairs because I thought the daughter was downstairs, and maybe he walked out.
Yeah.
But yeah, the cops had me in the back of the car because they didn't know who was who for a while.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I would have got arrested for sure, because I would have been like, this is the perfect time to try out my chainsaw.
Well, I had a firearm.
Into the house.
I had a firearm.
Did?
Oh yeah. I'm not going to walk into a house unarmed. That's crazy talk, Nick.
Oh man. You're a Wild West gunslinger, man.
Maybe. But no,
don't go to Bert's Land.
Yeah, do not go to. It'd be a very bad land to come to. That's probably not the right house. That's what I'll tell you. Don't
cancel my passport application. I'm done.
Yeah. But yeah, I had a firearm on me, and the police pulled in like full SWAT, like with rifles out and everything. Now, what's funny is I had a backwards baseball cap on.
Mm-hmm.
I probably look like more of a criminal because I did not expect to have the cops. I didn't expect to be rolling over on my neighbor's house on a Sunday. But another neighbor was there because he called another neighbor. He came over unarmed, just a little bit older guy, clean cut and everything. And when we was leaving, I said, "Listen," I said, "I'm going to leave my firearm in my pocket. We're both going to walk out backwards with our hands up, and we're going to take instructions and explain to him who we are." And he just walks right outside. And I'm like, oh God. So they end up cuffing him and everything. I walk out the way I said to walk out, and a cop comes up to me and puts his hand on my back. And I said, "Before we say anything, I have a firearm. It's in my right upper pocket." I said, "It is chambered. There is a bullet in the chamber."
Yeah.
And he said, "Why do you have a firearm?" And I said, "I wasn't coming over to my neighbor's house in the event that someone broke in unarmed." And he goes, "Is it just understand I have to take your firearm from you?" I said, "Totally understand." He takes the firearm from me, doesn't cuff me, and says, "Okay, just go back to the cruise." Now, the neighbor that did not have a firearm, that went out not the way that Bert said, he got cuffed and put into the cop car. And the whole time we're sitting in the back of the cop car, he goes, "Why didn't they cuff you? You got the backwards cap. Like, you look like the criminal." And I said, "I can't answer that question." And the cop did. When the cop
can be deceiving.
Yeah. The cop came back and he said, "Out of curiosity, why'd you cuff me and not him?" And he goes, "Honestly?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "You seem a little more nervous and skittish." When I put my hand on his back, he was calm and he explained everything.
Right.
I don't know.
That's a scary experience, in my opinion.
I mean, I wouldn't want to do it twice if that's any indicator.
No.
But, it's like everything else. The
No.
U.S., we're safe in some regards, but we're very unsafe in other regards. There's definitely things you have to kind of have to be a little bit more cognitive of.
Yeah, I guess so. But I guess you can see why I'm paranoid then, and why I'm judging aliens like I am.
That's what I'm saying.
You
UFOs
tell me
a little
stuff
different.
like that, and I'm like, yeah, I think we need police.
Oh, maybe
Maybe they
have
don't.
to. But again, it comes back to we're fallible.
Yeah.
If you got a technology that's
I'm going to
different.
give you a little preview.
Mhm.
Through the narrative, I'm going to continue to be suspicious.
Sure.
Although maybe I shouldn't be.
Maybe.
Would you like to hear a little more?
Of course I do. I want to see what you're talking about.
In 1978, 8 out of the 12 brave explorers who journeyed to the distant planet Serpo returned to Earth. Sadly, 2 of their team had passed away on Serpo, and 2 chose to stay behind with the alien civilization they had encountered. When the survivors came back, they were put through intense debriefings and kept isolated to make sure they hadn't picked up any alien diseases and to keep their incredible experiences under wraps. The group were sworn and threatened into secrecy. The consequences would be dire if they ever revealed anything about their missions. They were chosen specifically in the first place because they had no familial ties and very few people who would have noticed them missing. They supposedly brought back mind-blowing advancements in medicine, incredible new energy sources, and mind-bending scientific ideas. Many of them are claimed to be what jumped us so quickly into technological advancement. The computer you are watching or listening to this episode on, and the wires delivering the signal to you, may have come from Zeta Reticuli. The stories they told about their time on Serpo were kept super top secret by the government, sparking tons of wild theories and conspiracies. One of the biggest rumors was that the US government didn't just stop at visiting Serpo. They allegedly kept in secret contact with the aliens they met, trading knowledge and technology in the shadows for decades. If true, it would mean humanity's future could be tied up with beings from another world, raising big questions about what we might gain and what we might risk in such a cosmic exchange.
So, all this time later, they came back. 2 of them died, 2 of them stayed, and then the rest came back with amazing technology that they've been sworn to secrecy on. Now, supposedly, the deal we have with this other species is we can't just release this all at once. We've got to trickle it out. And my theory about this is that they do occasionally just casually expose a little bit of these ideas to public industries and stuff like that, or maybe to certain government institutions, just a little bit at a time, just to keep us going.
I have a hard time buying that.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
You think they'd put it all out at once?
Let me do this in a way that people will understand.
Okay.
What's your favorite type of candy, Nick?
Those lint truffles.
Okay. Lint truffles, right?
Yeah.
You ever bought a bag and thought to yourself, you know what? I'm just going to eat a couple pieces and then this will last me like a couple weeks. You ever thought of that?
Yeah, I bought 75 of them on my trip.
And you probably thought, that'll last me for a while, right?
I don't like how you're reading me right now.
How many of those have you had, Nick? If you had to guess.
I don't have to guess. I don't have any left.
So you wasn't able to trickle that down? Something you love. Something that...
No. I know. I was supposed to have 5 at a time. It didn't work out that way.
Because what happens is you do the 5 and you go, wow, that's really cool. I'd like to have 5 more just to see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
We are a prime example of this just in our podcast, Nick. We start out very simplistic, very easy.
Mm-hmm.
We found a little bit of technology and we advanced a few things. And instead of being happy and saying, you know what, next year we'll review and do a little bit more. Human nature does not, if you give a human everything, Hence the age-old
Right.
adage, you can teach a man, you can give man fish, or you can teach them how to fish. If you give them everything, they're just going to use and use and use and use and use, and
Right.
they never really advance themselves. They just continue to use what they've got. That would be us.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a tough time
Right.
believing they gave us all this technology and we're just trickling it in occasionally. No one would be able to do that in a human. I can tell you as a human, that'd be impossible.
Well, I'll tell you why I think it is possible, and I'll use your same example.
Okay.
What if I'm the guy who already knows how to fish?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say there's a bunch of top officials that are taking advantage of this technology already.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like the internet would be hard because everyone's got to have it for it to work.
Sure.
How quickly did the internet advance?
Relatively quickly.
Pretty fast.
Yeah.
So they released it quicker and quicker and quicker, and things jumped up. But maybe there's medical advancements, because it said huge medical advancements. And the guys at the top, they don't have to worry about disease. They don't have to worry about aging or anything like that. They've already got the technology. But, you know, they'll let a little bit of it out at a time because it doesn't affect them.
Sure.
They can make some money off a new anti-wrinkle cream. Meanwhile, they're already anti-aging in its entirety.
Sure.
If the people at the top have it, they don't need to eat all their candies at once. They've already got all their candies. But how much of their candies will they share?
There's a problem with that, though.
What's that?
They've got all the medical that they need, right? They trickle that down. That doesn't prevent their family members from dying and then watching them die from these diseases.
That's true. Unless they extend it to them, maybe. But I know where you're going to go next. And how are they keeping that secret?
Correct. There's where the problem lies. When you look at, I just had this conversation with someone the other day. I don't know where this chalks up to, but the rate of cancer deaths that I see is so significantly high. Like when this podcast comes out, you know, Shannon Doherty that just died from the cancer that she had. You know, we're talking, I'm watching people in their 40s and 50s die at astronomical levels. And almost everyone that I know now has some form of a cancer, or they're in cancer treatments, or they beat cancer, but they still have to get checked out. I have a hard time believing that that part of our life is super advanced somewhere, but then they just trickle it out. Because the one thing
I don't find that hard to believe because of the money that capitalism runs everything.
100%. I agree. But you know what happens?
They make a lot of money off that.
You know the two things that changes significantly when you're dying from something, though?
What's that?
People will typically find and hold on to a religion that they never thought would make sense. And the second thing is the money doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
No material goods ever matters anymore because they're dying.
Right.
Or they see the
But they
end.
do spend that money on treatments and such that are very expensive.
If they have money. If they
Right.
have it. That's the key.
If you haven't got money, no one cares about you.
Correct.
Unfortunately.
And you have to have a lot of money to have a lot of these options. You know, there was someone that I was talking to, I was on vacation. When I was on vacation, I was talking to someone that went on vacation with us. And I said, it's amazing to me how nowadays you go to the doctor and you go, hey, I've got this one thing that's kind of off a little bit, X, Y, and Z. And they go, well, let's do a panel and let's take a look at everything. And then they come back with like 9 things that's wrong. And the amazing thing about those 9 things is they've got a medicine for all 9 of them. And then I've seen multiple cases now where there's a woman, and I won't get into it because it's probably a little controversial for what we do, but there's a woman that people go to when people's dying, and it's basically the last resort. They either have extreme forms. One of the big ones was there was a husband and a wife that went to this woman. The woman had dementia. And the dementia was bad, like really, really bad.
Right.
And she used to be like extremely intelligent. She was up to par on everything. She had like a master's degree and whatever, and just rapidly, extremely rapidly, she got dementia. So they went to this person that you go to when things are, and basically they're like, my wife is going, and the husband is very upset. He's like, my wife is going to go into hospice. Like, there's nothing that I can do. She doesn't acknowledge some things, like some days are better than others. And she goes, basically they were both there, and she had good days while she was there. And the woman goes, first I need to see all the medications that she's currently on. And they racked up those medications. There was like 5. And she goes, I can assure you the dementia is coming from this and this, which are prescriptions is being given to her.
Oh, interesting.
And she said, go to your doctor and see if we can get her off of these 2 medications. Husband went, and the doctor's is like, well, she needs these 2 things to live. Like without these 2 things, she could die. And the husband said, if she stays on these 2 things, or if she's on the current trajectory that she's on, she's going to die anyway.
Right.
So they went back and they went to the person. She's a doctor also, just FYI. And, but she has alternative medicine theories. And she said, we're going to take her off these 2 medications, but we're going to implement natural foods and natural things that is found. And within 1 week of going off of those 2 medications, her dementia detracted beyond where she was before.
Oh, that's amazing.
And now her lifestyles, it's been 7 years off those medications, the same level of intelligence she had before all of that, but she had to change her entire lifestyle. She had to change what she was eating, what she was drinking, how she was drinking it, the times a day. She had to fast. Now, is that a one-off? Maybe, right? Maybe this one thing would work for this one person, but not work for the next 20. We don't know. But in the same regards, I find it amazing that right now, you're right. It's way better in their eyes to make a little bit of money on these medications we can sell versus fixing the root of whatever it is.
Right.
Because there's no money in fixing it. We also talk about that with fossil fuels. We can build a car on water. We've done it multiple times, but there's no money in water. There's money in fossil fuels.
Right. Now, there are people that know this. There are people that know the treatment that lady's got, but it's not widely available to people.
Correct.
So it is not hard to keep these things secret.
Correct.
And still take advantage of them.
Correct.
So I think it is plausible.
It's plausible.
This could happen.
It's plausible. I don't know. It's very interesting to look at. And, you know.
Yeah, I don't think it was the Ebb. I'm going to defend the Ebbins in this case, even though I'm suspicious.
Yeah, you're suspicious.
I know. I think I got a problem with aliens in general. Sorry, aliens. But I don't think that was their desire, that we hold it back to the elite and then leak it out slowly. I think that was our requirement.
Could very well be.
Because if you look at it this way, they brought people to their planet and everyone knew about it. There wasn't any secrets whatsoever. All the secrecy's coming from our side.
But what is it we say all the time? There's only one person that can know a secret.
We judge them. That's true.
If too many people know the secret,
Well,
it gets out. Every time it gets out.
that's true. But then who believes them sometimes? Because our whole podcast is based on the premise that if you tell people these things, they just don't believe you.
That's true. That is valid. Listen, it's true.
Right? Because otherwise we wouldn't be able to do this.
That's true. To be
Yeah.
exact, none of our listeners or watchers know what we believe and what we don't believe.
I know. That is true. Well, they know that I want to fight aliens and I'm
I know,
suspicious of
with
them.
a freaking crossbow and a rock. It's what we've learned.
Yeah, anything, whatever it takes, I'll fisticuff them if I have to.
For the record, aliens,
and they know.
if you're watching, old Bert's got 0 issues.
Yeah, he's more dangerous to other people. I'm dangerous to aliens and not so much other people.
Here's what I find amazing.
Mhm.
You got no issues with demons and stuff. They're the
No,
epitome of
Nothing
bad.
different. They were here first. We're the bad ones.
Wait, listen. They're not good people. We've determined
we're
this.
colonizers.
But yet UFOs, which we have no proof that they're bad,
Mhm.
no proof. And
Listen,
those are the ones you
I'm
want to
gonna
fight.
tell you something that I've had a prophetic dream about before.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, it's fair.
We're going to one day be invaded by aliens.
Mhm.
And you know who's going to be fighting by our side?
Who?
Demons. And it's going to be wicked. There's going to be heavy metal music. There's going to be swords. It's going to be crazy.
Earlier when I said,
Mhm.
you know, sometimes the use of some of those products to enhance your thought process. Between the two of the
Yes.
podcast hosts, which do you think could have potentially went down that path?
It's Bert. You know what? Yeah, hold on. I didn't give you a hard time for not believing we've been to the moon.
I didn't
you
say
let
nothing.
me have my alien demon fight.
I didn't say nothing. Hey, listen,
Okay.
aliens and
okay,
demons. Isn't there a movie called Aliens and Demons or something like that?
Aliens versus cowboys.
Wasn't a Nicolas Cage movie's called like Aliens and something and Angels and Demons maybe?
Oh. Wait, wasn't that Tom Hanks?
I don't know. I'm not
Yeah.
good at this.
I don't think it's related.
That might
But
not
I'm
be.
going to look it up because I'd love to watch that movie. I hope it does exist.
Yeah, if it exists,
Maybe
listen,
we can make that with all our film gear.
it's possible. We might be able to. Looks like there's like one more segment left. Is that right, Nick?
Yeah, let's just close it out. I'll warn you, this segment, I wrote this when I was really paranoid about the aliens. So forgive me for that because you've kind of won me over, but I can't unwrite this now. So let's roll.
Just remember, this segment was wrote by Nick Aliens.
Yeah, I regret it a little bit.
You may have heard the following expression in your life. If a deal seems to be too good to be true, it is. Listening to this narrative about the exchange that the Evans proposed, did you ask yourself, what could we possibly have offered such an advanced race? Surely our technology would already be known to such an advanced species. Indeed, they demonstrated 13 years previously that they had detailed knowledge of top government secrets that we who live here still do not have access to. It did turn out that the Evans also wanted to leave a number of their kind on our planet to learn. The people of Serpo have one other unique skill beyond their telepathy: the ability to perfectly change their appearance to be indistinguishable from a human. They were walking among us, but for how long? Is this a part of a mass immigration process to leave a dangerous and harsh multiple sun world? A number of modern science fiction shows, movies, and books have looked into this terrifying possibility. In fact, the sci-fi masterpiece, The Three-Body Problem, also discusses a race from a harsh multi-sun planet desiring the Earth as their new home. Are the Evans really as peaceful as they present themselves, or were they only putting forward the image they wanted us to see? These questions, and more, keep people up at night, including those that have risked everything to leak these projects. We're certainly not alone in the universe, but will we soon wish we were?
Gosh dang, Nick, you're paranoid.
Yeah, I'm sure you could see the mindset I was in when I wrote that.
Yeah, he was deep in thought.
But they can disguise themselves as us. They know our government secrets.
Mm-hmm.
They're walking amongst us secretly. This is sci-fi movie magic.
Sci-fi.
Like, this is gold.
Movie magic. This is gold. I bet there's a movie about this somewhere. There always is.
Well, I think they're just slowly moving people onto the earth because our planet's so nice and lush.
Yeah, their
Like,
planet
they're just all
sucks.
going to immigrate here. They do have a government and they do have a military and they don't want us to know.
Could be. Could be.
Because what else could we offer them?
It's a great question, Nick. It's a great question.
Yeah, am I still being paranoid, or do I have reason to be now?
You are 100% paranoid.
Okay.
You're 100%
Sorry,
paranoid.
aliens.
I mean, listen, aliens.
It could be a takeover plot, man.
You know what it is? I'm like, you've seen the movie Independence Day, Will Smith.
Oh yeah.
I'm the guy holding the
I love
sign
that movie.
going, UFOs, yes, welcome. Welcome, UFOs. Woo, you're here.
I guess you know which character I am.
And then,
I'm the crazy old guy who flies the prop plane into one of them.
then Nick sat there.
Yeah.
Then you
Tell
got,
my family I killed an alien.
I killed an alien with my own hands. And then I'm the one that gets obliterated because my faith is too strong. But it doesn't matter because I know there's an
I guess we both
afterlife.
don't work out of that. yeah. They just put that on the loudspeaker.
That's
What's
right.
happening next is okay because there's an afterlife.
That's right. It's okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
What says y'all out in podcast
I think
land?
some of that is suspicious.
I mean, it could be, Nick. I'm not saying it's not a little
Yeah.
suspicious. Okay, it might be a little suspicious. Okay.
Yeah.
But what says y'all out there in podcast land? Do you think this is legit? Do you think Nick has a good reason? Do you think Nick has a good reason to that scared the pee out of me, Nick? I was like, what's going on? Does Nick have a good reason to be suspicious of these doggone aliens, or do you think he's being a little paranoid? Which do you think?
There's a pattern here.
I mean, we need some of that regression therapy for Nick. We need to figure out what happened that made him so paranoid.
Yeah. I've been looking forward to that for a long time, so we really need to do that one day.
We do need to do it. We'll do it on our tour,
Yeah.
on our podcast tour, Nick.
Yeah. That'll be good.
Well, everybody, hopefully you enjoyed this podcast. Wherever you're listening to your podcast, hit that doggone like button. Make sure you like, enjoy us. Tell us about your friends. Show us off a little bit. Show them a little diamond in the rough. Be like, hey, look at a little podcast I listen to. That's what we need.
Don't be afraid to support me in the comments with my fighting of aliens.
Exactly. Also, what was the first thing you bought on eBay? Don't you lie neither. I want to know the truth.
Oh, yeah. We want to know.
We want to know. Well, until we see you on the next podcast. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Set in Roswell, sky lit bright. An unidentified crash in the dead of night. Debris scattered, secrets kept tight. The beginning of a journey hidden from sight. Aliens among us, truth in disguise. A pact made of shadows away from prying eyes. We're on a journey to Serpo across the stars. Traveling light years, we've come so far. In the land of two suns where mysteries lie. Project Serpo with humanity's ties. mysteries unfold. Secrets of the universe, their stories told. An exchange of knowledge, a bond so deep. The truth of Serpo in our hearts we keep. With tales untold of a world where life is more than gold. Peace and progress hand in hand, a vision of the future in a foreign land. Alien wisdom, a path so clear, a future shaped by what we learn here. We're on a journey to Serpo across the stars, traveling light years. We've come so far in the land of two suns, where mysteries lie. Project Serpo, where humanity's died. From Roswell to the stars, a journey begun. Project Serpo, a tale of what we become. With knowledge and peace we strive to see the future of humanity as it should be.